On February 28, 2026, the silence over the Persian Gulf was broken by the low hum of B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. For months, the world watched as diplomatic channels in Geneva dissolved into a dead end. But while the public heard talk of peace, the gears of a massive US-Israeli machine were already in motion. This was the start of Operation Epic Fury, and quite possibly the opening shots of World War III. The objective was clear: planting the seeds for a regime change and the removal of its highest command. To do it, CENTCOM coordinated a wave of attacks involving Tomahawk cruise missiles, F-35 stealth fighters, and heavy bunker buster munitions designed for targets buried hundreds of feet beneath solid rock. But technology alone wasn't enough to penetrate the most guarded regime on Earth. Rumors began to swirl of a high-level betrayal from within the Iranian regime, a critical security breach that handed the coalition the keys to the supreme leader's inner sanctum. This wasn't just a surgical strike, it was a decapitation made possible by someone on the inside. From the first cyber attack at midnight to the final earth-shaking impact in the heart of Tehran, every second was calculated. We modeled the entire thing, to go inside the war room and onto the flight deck to break down the most consequential 24 hours in modern history. This is exactly how Operation Epic Fury took place. The clock officially started ticking at 4 a.m. Eastern Time in a sterile room in Geneva. For months, diplomats had been trying to get Iran to freeze its nuclear enrichment. Iranians insisted that there's no military nuclear program going on. But the talks hit a brick wall. When the Iranian team walked out for the last time, the diplomatic track was officially dead. By 8 a.m., a top-secret briefing was held at the White House. This is where the inside betrayal comes into play. A high-ranking mole within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had gone rogue. This source provided the golden key, the exact coordinates and floor plans for a deep underground bunker located beneath a seemingly normal residential compound in Tehran. This wasn't just a bunker, it was the Supreme Leader's hard site, designed to survive a nuclear blast. With this intel, the order was given to execute Operation Epic Fury. By noon, the world's most powerful military machine began to shift. In the Persian Gulf, the US Fifth Fleet, responsible for the Middle East, went into MCON. Short for mission control, this means every ship went radio silent, turning off radars and radios, so the Iranian military couldn't track their movements via electronic signals. Halfway across the world, at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, 3 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers taxied onto the runway. These are the famous flying wing planes that are nearly invisible to radar. They were carrying the GBU-57, better known as the MOP. To put it simply, this is a 30,000-pound dart. It doesn't just explode on impact, it's designed to drill through 200 feet of reinforced concrete before the bomb actually goes off. Their trajectory took them across the Atlantic. As night fell over Tehran, the war started before a single shot was fired. This was the cyber phase. US and Israeli hackers launched a digital assault on Iran's integrated air defense system. The hackers didn't just turn the radars off. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they used a technique called spoofing. They fed the Iranian radar screens, or ghost images, making it look like hundreds of planes were attacking from the north, while the real strike force was coming from the south. The Iranian operators were chasing shadows, wasting their focus on targets that didn't exist. At the same time, Israeli F-35 Adir jets, which are the most advanced stealth fighters in the world, slipped into Iraqi airspace, flying low through mountain valleys to stay under the radar horizon. At 1:15 a.m. local time, the kinetic phase began. From destroyers and submarines in the Gulf of Oman, over 100 Tomahawk cruise missiles were launched. These are essentially small, unmanned suicide missiles that fly at very low altitudes. They zigzagged through Iranian canyons to avoid being seen, hitting IRGC bases and nuclear labs at Natanz and Fordo. This was a shaping operation, a way to kick the hornet's nest and draw all of Iran's attention to their nuclear sites, leaving the capital city, Tehran, vulnerable. While the Iranian military was scrambling to respond to the Tomahawk strikes, the B-2 bombers were closing in on Tehran. At 3:45 a.m., the inside asset sent a final encrypted signal. The Supreme Leader had entered the bunker. He believed the reinforced concrete would protect him from the chaos happening at the borders. They dropped the 30,000-pound MOPs from high altitude. Because these bombs are GPS-guided, they hit within inches of their target. The first bomb acted as a jackhammer, shattering the top layers of the bunker. The second bomb followed right into the same hole, penetrating deep into the bedrock before detonating. The explosion was so powerful, it registered on regional seismographs as a minor earthquake. Within seconds, Iranian signals intelligence picked up panic, unencrypted messages from the Iranian Guard Corps. The head of the snake had been cut off. By 6:30 a.m., official confirmation of the strike's success was broadcast globally.
Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries.
But one thing was certain, Iran wasn't going to accept it. The retaliation is about to start. After the news of the supreme leader's death was confirmed, the world held its breath, waiting for Iran's response. Within hours, the remaining Iranian commanders, operating from hidden backup centers, triggered a massive retaliatory plan. This wasn't a small-scale protest. It was a full-scale military attempt to hit back at every U.S. asset within reach. The first wave started around noon. Iran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles from mobile launchers hidden in the mountains. They targeted the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain and the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Even though the U.S. had Patriot and THAAD missile defense systems, the sheer number of missiles launched at once meant that a few managed to break through. CENTCOM reported that 3 U.S. service members were killed and several others were wounded in these initial blasts. At least this was the mainstream version. Whistleblowers on both sides said the number of Americans and Israelis killed was in the 3 digits. At the same time, Iran deployed swarms of Shahed drones. These are cheap, slow-moving suicide drones that carry explosives and are designed to overwhelm defenses by sheer numbers. Dozens of these were sent toward U.S. oil facilities and smaller outposts in Kuwait and Dubai. While many were shot down by jets and ship-based guns, the goal wasn't just to destroy targets, it was to create total chaos and force the U.S. to spend millions of dollars in expensive interceptor missiles to stop a few $1,000s worth of drones. On the water, Iran's Mosquito Fleet, which are hundreds of fast-attack speedboats, swarmed into the Strait of Hormuz. This is a narrow choke point where about 30% of the world's oil passes through. The Iranian military began dropping sea mines and using shoulder-fired missiles to harass any ship they could find. This effectively shut down global oil shipping overnight. Within hours, gas prices across the globe started to skyrocket as oil markets panicked, fearing that the flow of energy from the Middle East was cut off for good. The retaliation didn't stay inside Iran's borders. Iran's allies in the region, like Hezbollah in Lebanon and other militias in Iraq and Syria, joined the fight, stretching the coalition's defenses thin. For the US and Israel, the math ain't mathing. It's far cheaper to attack than to defend. Iran can build a suicide drone for roughly $20,000 to $50,000, and even its advanced ballistic missiles often cost less than $1 million to produce. On the other side, the high-tech interceptors are incredibly expensive silver bullets. For example, a single Arrow 3 missile used by Israel costs about $3.5 million, while the American THAAD and SM-3 interceptors can cost between $12 million and $25 million per shot. This means that to stop a single Iranian drone, the defenders might spend 10 to 100 times more. During the 12-day war, it was reported that Israel spent up to $1 billion per night on interceptors. Even with the United States and Israel's incredible military budgets, this cost imbalance is simply impossible to sustain. So, what happens next? On the political side, the future is just as blurry. This power vacuum could lead to a totally new government, but it's just as likely that the remaining generals take over and run things themselves. Economically, if Iran continues its blockade on oil trade routes, we might witness unprecedented oil prices worldwide. Millions could lose their jobs and fall into poverty around the world. If that happens, other big players like Russia or China might step in to protect their own interests, which could turn a regional fight into a much bigger international standoff. Operation Epic Fury didn't end a regime. It hit the reset button on the entire Middle East.